Welcome to Before the War MMA edition, where this week we'll be discussing UFC 268 coming November 6th on a Saturday in Madison Square Garden. Colby Covington versus Kamaru Usman 2, Zhang Weili versus Namajunas 2, and Mike Chandler versus Justin Gaethje. Let's get into this. Before we get started on the main events, or the main card, the main card. Before we get started on the main card, I actually have almost kind of a recommendation fight to watch for this weekend that I think everyone should watch and pay attention to. It's actually a UFC debut for a former Glory champion this weekend, Alex Pereira versus Andreas Michailidis. Now, I'm not going to get into the extent of the fight. I didn't do too much research. I already know plenty about Alex Pereira, double champion Glory fighter, first one to ever do it in middleweight and light heavyweight division, and he makes his UFC debut this weekend. I only care about Alex Pereira. I'm not trying to jump into this first bout for him. What I do want to say is to pay attention to Alex. There's a reason he's here. This fight is on the other card, prelims, and I don't usually break these kinds of cards down, especially prelim events. I just enjoy them, watch them, pay attention to these fighters and how they come up. But Alex Pereira, while new to MMA, is a king of kickboxing and striking. He's a double champion in Glory, making history as the only individual to reach that status. This is a must-see prelim fight. And so even though I'm not going to do a breakdown, watch this fight because Alex is a knockout artist and has some of the most extensively fine striking for kickboxing. He will be exciting to watch. I guarantee you that. He's not someone to overlook because the UFC is looking to push him forward fast into the top 15. It's almost like the Khamzat Chimaev situation. But there's a reason to this madness, though. There's one special thing about Alex Pereira that a lot of you casuals will not know, and that was back in his early days, Alex knocked the current UFC middleweight champion Israel Adesanya out cold on a Chinese broadcasted kickboxing card. He knocked Izzy out. You can find the clip on YouTube. I might even show you the clip right now. In a very competitive fight. And then during a rematch, Izzy lost by decision to Pereira again. He didn't get knocked out, but he lost. Now, obviously, people disputed that decision. It is what it is. You don't control what happened in the past. You move forward, right? So now that both of these guys are in the UFC, both becoming the veterans of their respective disciplines, Izzy creating one hell of an MMA career, and Pereira just getting his feet wet with MMA, it can't be any better for this to happen. If things go correctly, the UFC is trying to make a super fight, an MMA rematch of Izzy and Pereira. And I mean, the 185 division needs it right now. We need somebody new to kind of shake up the division. For this weekend, like I said, I usually give my opinions on these. I'm not breaking it down. I do see Pereira running through Andreas, his opponent for the event this weekend. His opponent's going to have to force it to the ground. He's going to have to use his extensive MMA background. But Andreas can likely beat him on the ground. I mean, I'm not going to not give the kid his due diligence. He is technically a more experienced MMA fighter, but I have Pereira winning this by TKO KO. I want the super fight for Alex and Izzy already. I'm betting on Alex the whole way, all the way through. I don't think anyone can outstrike him in the 185 division, except maybe Robert Whittaker, but we'll see about that. Alex Pereira faces Andreas Michailidis. I could be pronouncing that wrong. I have Alex Pereira winning by TKO or KO. Absolutely. All right, let's move on to the main card. Yes, I'm excited for this. All right, the first one to lead into the last three fights. So the co-main event and the main event, but this is leading up to it. Justin Gaethje versus Mike Chandler, the highlight versus the Iron Mike of MMA. Now, this is an almost picture-perfect matchup for an exciting bout. I say this is definitely a number one contender fight, right? Yeah, absolutely. Both men having extensive wrestling backgrounds, but knowing the ego going into this fight right now. Both of these men will be stepping in the ring and they will enter a striking battle. These boys are going to be swinging. Mike Chandler, former Bellator champion, currently in the UFC 1-1. Only his loss in the UFC is to the current champion, Charles Oliveira, so it's not a bad loss. And Chandler still has a lot to prove just entering the UFC. He's already fought a top 10 opponent and he had an immediate title shot at the vacant 155. Chandler's now goes head-to-head with the highlight himself, Justin Gaethje, both faring very similar styles to the extent that they bring the fight forward and rarely fight on the back foot. Chandler does well when his opponents step back, as it allows him to really extend that power and really put it at the end of the punch against them, and he usually catches them. That won't happen here. I'm sorry. And I love Chandler. I watched most of his career in Bellator, especially his pitball, both the Petricki and Patricio fights. And if he ends up on the back foot, it's likely that he won't succeed. But they could either one of them can put each other on the back foot. The highlight, Justin Gaethje, who doesn't love the highlight? I mean, this man brings the fight every single time he's in the ring with an opponent in front of him, capable of extensive brawls and completely annihilating opponents. Justin has an 86 finishing rate in the UFC, and he barely ever does a submission, nor does he allow the fight to ever go to the judges. Justin's gonna bring this fight forward. He's gonna bring it through every single round. I don't think this is going to the scorecards. With a coach like Trevor Whitman in his corner to guide him through a striking match, this is going to be beyond exciting to view. Now, my opinion, I'm going to throw a little bit of statistics. I already told you. So let's put Chandler out here. He has a 45% TKO KO rate, finishing rate, excuse me. And 32% submission rate, 23% of his fights go to decision. Gaethje has that 86% finish rate, 5% submission rate. Gaethje is not bringing this to the ground. He wants to fight upright. He wants this battle to go forward. And he wants it to end early, because this man's decision victory rate, him winning by judges, is only 9% of his entire career. If this goes to the scorecard, it will go the way of Chandler, who is a much more well-rounded by choice. Gaethje chooses to stand and brawl and will only use wrestling to defend takedowns. But he has fallen in love with that striking and loves to put on a show. The man loves to put on a show. So it'll be very likely he will attempt any takedown. He won't attempt, It'll be very unlikely he will attempt any takedowns. If Chandler plays this a full MMA style, he will be able to take this fight to the scorecards and edge it out in a unanimous victory. Gaethje can win this fight by taking Chandler completely out with that extensive pressure, forward momentum, and making Chandler go on that back foot. I don't see this fight going all the way in favor of Justin Gaethje, who hits and strikes extensively harder than Charles Oliveira. I have to go with the overall better practitioner. I'm a sucker for fundamentals and versatility. And with that, something tells me this fight goes to decision for Iron Mike Chandler. Now, let's get into the co-main event. Rose Namajunas versus Zhang Weili. They lead the co-main event. This is a comeback fight. So this is a Rose versus Weili 2 for the strawweight belt. Zhang lost to Rose in the first round of their last meeting via a knockout head kick that showed the world how fantastically good Rose still is. Zhang was caught. It happens to the best fighter, and she immediately wanted that run back. And I agree with this. I think this rematch should take place. I think Weili did not get a chance to extensively show her skill set. Plus, there aren't very many strawweights right now in that division that really should be fighting for this belt right now. Rose Namajunas is the current champion, obviously, and is probably the greatest strawweight women's fighter to ever step into the octagon. She has a 100% rematch win record, having never dropped a rematch, and has a very well-rounded skill set, with her greatest asset being her ground game with a 50% grappling accuracy, and she's very good on the feet as well. 41% striking accuracy. She lands almost more than half of her strikes. So not only is she well-rounded, she's good in all trades. Rose is a force to be reckoned with. She throws damn near 1,200 strikes on average and lands more than half on average. She isn't the only one with high abilities, though. Zhang Weili did not fare well in their first fight. Even the top strikers and fighters get caught. Weili is no slouch, though, with a 45% striking accuracy, which makes sense as she has an extensive background in Muay Thai and kickboxing, having trained with the top kickboxers and Muay Thai fighters in the world, like Sanchai and most of the Yokkao Muay Thai organization, which have some of the best strikers on the planet. And mind you, I don't know if you guys watched it's not All Access, the UFC Countdown. She teamed up with Henry Cejudo to train her wrestling and her ability abilities on the ground. So even though she's primarily focusing on her striking, she is learning to be capable and very good on the ground. So when she steps in the ring, she's going to bring the heat. And I think she'll come in more mentally prepared this time. People are afraid that, when you get knocked out like that, if you get hurt like that, you don't come the same. I think she's a very mentally strong fighter. And I think a lot of the foreign fighters tend to train themselves very well mentally. So I see this fight definitely going to decision. But here's my opinion. I have Rose winning by decision. I think she's an overall better MMA practitioner. It's very hard to get those strong wrestling fundamentals down if you just didn't start with them. You need to start with them as soon as possible because then you're much better at it. I think she's the better MMA practitioner. I think she has the more weapons at her disposal to take on any opponent at her weight class. Rose has also never lost a rematch in her UFC career, and it's not looking like it's going to start happening now. Zhang has the ability to win, but I just can't see how she would be able to counter Rose. If she begins to use her clinching and ground game, then Weili is in a tough situation. I have Rose winning this by unanimous decision. It's also very possible Rose will knock her out again. It's not unlikely. All right, let's get into the main event, the meat and potatoes of this card. The one reason I don't know if it's the one reason we're paying for this event, but the biggest reason we're probably paying for this event. Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington 2 for the welterweight strap. The most electric rematch in UFC welterweight history. The Nigerian Nightmare versus Chaos Covington. This is one of the most heated rivalries in MMA. And in their last meeting, it went like a junkyard dog fight. And no one attempted a single takedown. It was a striking war all the way through each and every single round, many having them each even 2-2 going into the fifth, where Usman was able to get the TKO over Colby in 50 seconds left in the fifth round. It was a referee stoppage. It was Mark Goddard. I'm pretty sure it was Mark Goddard. I always forget little shit like that. I always forget the details. But anyways, Colby went home claiming he didn't, but I think he did. Went home with a broken jaw. And Usman once again proved why he is the best welterweight in UFC right now. All right, this one's going to be a little bit of a deeper dive. Colby has had a big change since he left his original gym, ATT, for MMA Masters, where he claims to be receiving a more personal training camp centered around him. That makes me a little suspicious. It's kind of similar to the Deontay Wilder situation where Wilder wasn't showing up for Mark Breland when Breland was like, I need you to come to the gym so we can keep training. So that I'm curious if Colby has a lot of yes men around him. That's what I'm just wondering, because he went from ATT due to the dramas they were having there. But he left ATT, American Top Team, which is the Miami, Florida gym that he started with and was friends with a number of fighters, and decided to go to MMA Masters, which is run by a whole different group of individuals, where Colby is kind of their like cash cow right now. And so in my head, is he really receiving the proper training in order to prepare himself for a bout this big? Colby can sometimes be self-centered, and I'm wondering if he's dictating the training himself and doing his own training regimen, and the coaches are there just kind of following his lead. I think that's a downward spiral for a lot of fighters in their career when they get to a certain level and they try to become the teacher and the student at the exact same time. Colby's a phenomenal D1 wrestler with a 52% wrestling accuracy. He recently began focusing on striking because Usman wrestling is on about the same level. It's difficult when two wrestlers are facing each other. I think Usman is slightly not worse, but I think Usman is slightly not the better wrestler, if we want to put it. I think Colby's slightly above him, but Usman obviously makes it up with accurate striking. Colby came close to beating Usman in their first meet. He really did. As much as you want to hate the guy, Colby's a great MMA fighter. He's a fantastic fighter, as annoying as he can be. Is he doing enough to make up the difference in skills that I've been seeing? Colby's only fought once since Usman's fight. Usman has fought multiple. Kamaru Usman. Let's talk about him. Man, it's hard to choose against this guy. His striking has reached fantastic standards in a small amount of time. He proves to be one of the mentally strongest fighters in the welterweight division. He's taking everyone out, one after another. Masvidal, Gilbert Burns, Colby Covington, and the former champion where he got the belt from, Tyrone Woodley. And he still only has one blemish on his entire record. That happened way back early in his career. Kamaru Usman, though, like Colby, actually switched gyms, but for less selfish reasons. Gilbert Burns was a teammate he was fighting, and they shared the same gym and were on the same fight team. And so Henry Hoof's team, if I'm not mistaken. So Usman, in a collective discussion, decided with respect to find a new gym and train with Trevor Whitman, a striking coach who rose Usman's striking tenfold, making him not only scary on the ground against the cage, but now also on the feet. So he's so good now. He took out Jorge Masvidal, who is still a significantly better striker, and Jorge's never been finished. Usman ended that, taking Jorge's soul with a vicious straight hand. And I think the second round of their second fight, it was a beautiful thing. My opinion, I don't think Colby beats Usman. He is better on the ground, but I don't think he can get Usman on the ground. Colby's best option is to try to beat Usman on the ground. Usman outclasses him striking, especially now. Also, Colby has not been as active. Colby has had one fight to Usman's 3 fights since their last meeting, and usually fighters' inactivity is a big tell-all with a fighter's success returning, especially for a big fight at this level. I have Usman winning by KO, TKO, or decision. I doubt this fight goes to the ground. Colby's biggest chance is to outwork him and beat him on the scorecard, but I just don't see it. I just don't see it happening. It's really hard to choose against Usman. People have tried to convince others to choose against Usman. It's not happening. Yeah, I got Usman winning this weekend by TKO, KO, or decision. I really see him beating Colby Covington this weekend. Guys, thank you for listening to Before the War for UFC 268. We will be doing reactions once the event is over, so we'll be back here talking about that. We also check out our previous video on the Caleb Plant Canelo Alvarez Undisputed 168 championship belt that is also happening at the exact same time. We will be watching both and reacting to both, so look forward to those reaction videos. And check out our prediction videos for the Canelo Alvarez and Caleb Plant fight. Guys, make sure you like, subscribe, follow our social media, share with your friends. We are on TikTok and Twitter. We will be doing TikToks and we will be talking on Twitter about these events. So follow us on everything to keep up with us. And we will see you guys the next time for our aftermath. Yep, the reactions to each event. UFC 268 and Caleb Plant versus Canelo Alvarez. All right, guys, we will see you guys on the next one. You guys have a fantastic weekend. Adios.